So now that we know a little bit more about the Flexbox, let's continue using this in the practice. So in this lecture, we learn more about aligning items, like aligning flex items, changing their visual order, and creating space between them, and justify content too. Flex start. Remember, these directions are based on these default Flexbox directions. Later, we can change the directions of the axis using flex direction. Now, let's look at another important property called align self. The align items properties affects all the flex items at the same time, but sometimes we want to change the alignment of only one specific item. That's exactly what align self is used for. For example, let's select the element 1, and for that I'm giving the align self to flex start. So when I refresh this, it moves to the top and the first element moves to the top. On the other hand, the elements remaining unchanged, and we can also use another one as el element fifth. For that I'm using align self stretch. Now the fifth element stretches across the available height. Remember that stretch is the default value of align items. So if we do not specify anything, the items would already stretch by default. If we change the height of the container, the stretched items will automatically adjust to fill the available space. If I change this value to 250, now you can see it also changes. So I'm keeping back the original. Now let's quickly talk about the order property. Changing the visual order of the flex items can be very useful when we are adapting a large layer of small mobile screens. The important thing is to understand that the default value of order for every flex items is 0. So you might think the first element has the order 1 and the second one has order 2 and the third has order 3 and so on. But that's not how it works. The flex items have an order of 0 by default. For example, if we want to move the sixth element to the very first beginning, and we can give it an order value lower than 0, giving the order of -1. Now the sixth element moves to the first position. The reason is simple. -1 comes after the 0 and 0 is the default value of Flexbox items. We can also move an element to an end. For example, if I give a value greater than 0 to 1, now the fifth element moves to the last. If we want another element to appear after that one, we can give it an higher value. That is, if I take element 2 and give it an order of 2. Now the second element becomes the last one. Now let's quickly look at some other values we can use with justify content. Now let's talk about creating some space between flex items. We already saw that justify content can automatically distribute space between elements, but sometimes we want to manually define a specific amount of space between the flex items. There are two ways to do this. The order method is to use margins, that is nothing but selecting all the elements and giving the margin right at 30 pixels. Okay, this gives every element 30 pixels of space on its right side. This works, but it is not the cleanest solution. So a much better and modern solution is the gap property. I'm just commenting this. In the container itself, we can create the gap, and I'm giving 30 pixels. Now there is a 30 pixels of space between all the flex items. The advantage is that the spacing is defined directly on the flex container. We don't have to add margins to individual elements. We also don't have to worry about removing the margin from the last element. This makes our CSS cleaner and easier to maintain. For now, we'll continue working with this small demo. In this next lecture, we'll talk about one of the most important flex properties,